Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a topic that's been kind of buzzing around the tech world for a while,
Yeah.
and that is what happens when artificial general intelligence,
Right.
that super smart kind of AI that you've probably heard about,
Yeah.
becomes as accessible and as affordable as, say, your favorite smartphone app.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're talking AGI going mainstream, or
Yeah.
as the folks in the know call it,
hmm
commoditized.
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it? I mean, we're so used to thinking about AI as this powerful tool, in the hands of big tech companies and governments.
Right.
But what happens when that power is democratized?
Yeah.
When literally anyone with an internet connection can tap into the problem-solving capabilities
Yeah.
of a system that rivals and maybe even surpasses human intelligence.
Exactly. And to really wrap our heads around this, we're going to be diving into some thought-provoking excerpts from The Second Machine Age
Yeah.
by Brynjolfsson and McAfee.
Great.
You might be familiar with their argument about digital technologies evolving at an exponential rate,
Right.
but they take it a step further,
Yeah.
suggesting that this isn't just changing what we do,
Mm.
but fundamentally altering who we are as humans.
Yeah, and they position AGI as the culmination of these trends.
Sure.
Not just another technological leap,
Right.
but a potential paradigm shift
Yeah.
that could reshape everything from our economies to our very sense of self.
Okay, so let's get concrete here.
Okay.
What does this actually look like in practice?
Mm-hmm.
The book is this amazing example. Imagine a small business owner,
Love it.
maybe someone running a shop in a remote village,
Right.
suddenly having access to the same level of strategic planning and decision-making power as a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
That's the kind of leveling of the playing field we're talking about.
And it goes beyond just business.
Okay.
Imagine medical researchers,
Right?
maybe even in under-resourced areas,
Uh-huh.
being able to leverage AGI to accelerate the development of life-saving treatments.
Right. We're talking about potentially cracking the code on diseases like Alzheimer's, not in decades, but maybe in years.
Wow.
A potential game changer for global health.
Okay, so this all sounds incredibly promising.
Right.
But, there's got to be a flip side, right? I mean, if AGI can do pretty much any job better and faster than humans, what happens to the workforce?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And this is where things get a little more complicated.
Oh.
Let's take a very specific example. Legal analysis.
Okay.
Right now, lawyers spend countless hours poring over documents, looking for precedents, building arguments.
Right.
But an AGI system could potentially do all of that in a fraction of the time,
Wow.
with a level of accuracy and efficiency that would be impossible for humans to match.
So lawyers are out of a job.
Well.
What about doctors, teachers? Are we all headed for the unemployment line?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
It's not necessarily about entire professions vanishing overnight.
But it does raise some serious questions about how work will be redefined in an AGI-driven world.
Yeah.
And it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths
Okay.
about the potential for economic disruption and displacement on a scale we've never seen before.
That's a bit unnerving, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it's not just about losing jobs, right?
No.
It's about what happens to our sense of purpose,
Right.
our value as individuals in a world where machines can seemingly do everything better than we can.
Exactly. And this brings us to what I think is the most crucial question of all.
Okay.
If human labor becomes less essential, will the powers that be,
Right.
the corporations and governments that shape our world,
Yeah.
still have any incentive to invest in things that benefit us?
So we're talking about things like education, healthcare, social safety nets,
Exactly.
the very foundations of a thriving society.
Precisely. And the fear is that those foundations could start to crumble
Okay.
if the traditional incentives that drive investment in human capital no longer apply.
So if companies can rely on AGI for productivity, why bother investing in training and educating human workers?
And if mass unemployment leads to a shrinking middle class who's going to buy all the products and services
Right?
those companies are churning out,
Yeah.
it creates a potential downward spiral that's pretty unsettling to contemplate.
And what about from a government perspective? If you have a large population that's no longer considered economically productive,
Yeah.
do they become seen as a liability rather than an asset?
Right.
Does population growth become a problem to be managed rather than a source of human potential to be nurtured?
These are complex and challenging questions, and there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
But I think it's crucial that we start grappling with them now,
Okay.
before we find ourselves in a situation where technology has reshaped our world in ways that we didn't anticipate and maybe aren't prepared for.
So it sounds like we're at a bit of a crossroads.
Yeah.
This whole AGI commoditization thing
Mm-hmm.
could either be the key to unlocking a future of unprecedented abundance and prosperity,
Right.
or it could lead to a dystopian scenario where humanity is sidelined,
Yeah.
struggling to find its place in a world dominated by machines.
It's a bit of a tightrope walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the good news is that we're not just passive bystanders in this process.
Okay.
We have the power to shape this future, to make choices that steer us towards the outcomes we want to see.
Right.
And that's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, listeners. Get ready for part 2, where we unpack some potential solutions and strategies for navigating this brave new world of widely accessible AGI.
I'm excited.
It's going to be a thought-provoking ride.
It is.
All right, so we've just explored some of the potential downsides of AGI becoming widely available.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're not just along for the ride here.
Right.
We have the power to shape this future.
We do.
So where do we even begin?
Well, I think one of the most critical areas we need to focus on is education. Think about it. If AGI is going to be handling a lot of the tasks that currently occupy our time and energy, we need to be prepared for a world where the skills that are most valued are going to be very different from what they are today.
So are we talking about some kind of futuristic sci-fi education system?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's more about a shift in focus.
Sure.
We need to move away from rote learning, memorizing facts and figures
Right.
that an AGI could access in a nanosecond.
Right.
Instead, we need to cultivate the skills that are uniquely human, the
Yay.
things that machines, even super intelligent ones, are unlikely to replicate anytime soon.
Okay, give me some examples. What are these uniquely human skills?
Think about things like creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving.
Okay.
These are skills that require not just processing information,
Yeah.
but also understanding context, nuance, emotions,
Yeah.
the messy, unpredictable stuff that makes us human.
Right.
And then there's empathy, collaboration, communication, all those essential skills for navigating a world where relationships and social intelligence are going to be more important than ever.
So it's almost like we need to double down on our humanity
Yeah.
in order to thrive in this increasingly technological world.
It is a bit ironic, isn't it?
It is kind of ironic.
Yeah, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Imagine a world where AGI is actually used to enhance and personalize education.
Okay.
Think about AI tutors that can adapt to your individual learning style,
Mm-hmm.
identify your strengths and weaknesses, and create customized learning experiences that are engaging and effective.
Okay, now that's the kind of future I can get behind.
Right.
But let's be real. Education is just one piece of the puzzle.
Sure.
What about healthcare?
Yeah.
How does AGI change the game in terms of our health and well-being?
This is another area where the potential benefits are enormous.
Okay.
We're already seeing AI being used to develop new drugs, diagnose diseases earlier, and personalize treatment plans. But with AGI, we could potentially see a revolution in healthcare that goes even further.
So give me a glimpse into this healthcare revolution.
Oh, right.
What are we talking about here?
Imagine a world where everyone, regardless of where they live or their economic status, has access to affordable, high-quality healthcare powered by AGI.
Okay.
We're talking about preventative care that can identify potential health risks before they become serious problems. We're talking about personalized treatments tailored to your individual genetic makeup and lifestyle.
Wow.
And we're talking about a healthcare system that's not just focused on treating illness,
Right.
but on promoting well-being, both physical and mental.
That's a pretty compelling vision.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that with all these technological advancements,
Sure.
there's always the risk that the benefits won't be distributed equally.
Of course.
We don't want to end up with a world where only the wealthy and privileged have access to these life-changing innovations.
Absolutely. Equity is paramount.
Okay.
And that means we need to be very intentional about how these technologies are developed and deployed.
Right.
We need to ensure that access to AGI-powered healthcare is universal,
Yeah.
regardless of income, location, or social status.
Okay, so we talked about education, healthcare.
Uh-huh.
What about the places we live?
Yeah.
How do we design cities that are fit for purpose in this AGI-powered world?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
One of the most exciting possibilities is using AGI to address some of the most pressing challenges facing our cities today.
Okay, like what?
Think about affordable housing.
Oh,
Imagine AGI-driven construction technologies that can build high-quality, sustainable housing
right,
at a fraction of the cost of traditional methods.
right.
That could be a game changer for addressing the housing crises we see in so many urban areas.
That would be incredible.
It would.
And what about things like traffic congestion, pollution, energy consumption?
Sure.
Could AGI help us create more sustainable and livable cities?
Absolutely. Imagine using AGI to optimize urban infrastructure,
Okay.
smart traffic management systems that reduce congestion and emissions,
Uh-huh.
energy grids that are more efficient and resilient,
Right.
waste management systems that minimize our environmental impact.
Okay.
AGI could help us create cities that are not only more functional,
Yeah.
but also more enjoyable to live in.
It all sounds very utopian
Yeah.
and almost too good to be true.
It does sound pretty amazing.
But there's got to be a catch, right?
Well, there's always a flip side.
What are some of the potential downsides of relying so heavily on technology to solve these urban challenges?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is the potential for social isolation.
Okay.
If we're all working remotely,
Right.
interacting with AI assistants and virtual environments more than we're interacting with each other,
Uh-huh.
what happens to our sense of community?
Right.
How do we foster those essential human connections that make life meaningful?
That's a really important point.
It is.
We don't want to create these hyper-efficient, super-connected cities
Always.
that end up feeling sterile and isolating.
Yeah.
We need to design spaces that encourage social interaction,
Oh, sure.
that bring people together, that foster a sense of belonging.
Exactly. And that means thinking beyond just the technological aspects of urban design.
Okay.
We need to create public spaces that invite people to gather, to connect, to share experiences.
Yeah.
We need to design neighborhoods that promote a sense of community where people feel like they know their neighbors and have a stake in their local environment.
Right.
And we need to invest in the kinds of social infrastructure,
Like what?
like libraries, community centers, parks, and recreation facilities that bring people together and create opportunities for meaningful interaction.
Okay, so we've covered education, healthcare, and cities.
Right.
But there's one more big topic I want to touch on. It's
Okay.
kind of a sensitive one.
Right.
What about the impact of AGI on population dynamics?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about a world where human labor is less essential, does that change how we think about things like population growth and family planning?
It's a complex issue
Yeah.
and one that we need to approach with a lot of care and sensitivity,
Right.
but it's definitely something we need to be talking about.
Okay.
I think one of the most important things to remember is that this isn't about trying to control or limit population growth in some kind of dystopian authoritarian way.
Okay.
It's about empowering individuals to make informed choices about their own lives and families.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well,
Are we talking about government policies, education campaigns?
Yep.
What are the tools we can use to navigate this sensitive issue?
it's going to require a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
We need to ensure that everyone has access to comprehensive sex education and family planning services.
Okay.
We need to invest in women's education and empowerment because when women have more control over their own lives and bodies,
Yeah.
they tend to have smaller families. And we need to address the underlying economic and social factors that drive population growth.
Right.
Things like poverty, lack of access to healthcare, and gender inequality.
So it sounds like we need a holistic approach that addresses not just the technological aspects of AGI, but also the social, economic, and ethical dimensions.
Exactly.
It's about creating a world where technology serves humanity,
Right.
not the other way around.
Exactly. And that's going to require a lot of collaboration,
Right.
a lot of dialogue, and a lot of willingness to challenge our assumptions and think outside the box.
Yeah.
But I'm optimistic.
Okay.
I think we have the capacity to create a future where AGI enhances our lives, empowers us to solve our biggest challenges, and helps us build a more just and equitable world for everyone.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
It's pretty clear that AGI becoming widely available is a huge deal,
Yeah,
with the potential to reshape practically every aspect of our lives.
I think so.
But it feels like we're left with more questions than answers.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
How do we even begin to prepare for a future that's so uncertain, so full of both promise and peril?
You're absolutely right. There's no roadmap for this, no instruction manual for navigating the uncharted territory of widespread AGI. But that doesn't mean we're powerless.
Okay.
Remember, this future is being written as we speak,
Right.
and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
So what can we as individuals actually do?
Right.
It all feels so big, so systemic.
Sure.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed and just hope for the best.
I understand that feeling, but think of it this way.
Okay.
Every great societal shift, every technological revolution has been driven by the collective actions of individuals who dared to imagine a different future and then took steps to make it happen.
Okay, so give me some examples.
The abolition of slavery, the fight for civil rights, the rise of the internet.
Right.
These weren't just abstract historical events.
Yeah.
They were the result of countless individuals choosing to act, to speak up, to demand change.
So you're saying we need to be more than just passive observers. We need to be active participants in shaping this AGI future.
Exactly. And that starts with awareness.
Okay.
Educate yourself about AGI, its potential benefits, its risks, the ethical considerations.
Yeah.
The more informed you are, the better equipped you'll be to engage in meaningful conversations about these issues with your family, your friends, your community.
Okay, so knowledge is power.
It is.
What else can we do?
Support the organizations and initiatives that are working to ensure that AGI is developed and deployed responsibly and ethically.
So there are people already working on this.
There are. There are researchers, policymakers, activists, and entrepreneurs all over the world who are dedicated to creating a future where AGI benefits all of humanity,
Right.
not just a select few.
Okay.
Find those people, support their work, amplify their voices.
So it's not just about understanding the technology. It's about engaging with the social and ethical implications.
Precisely. And remember, this isn't just about some far-off future. The choices we make today, the conversations we have, the actions we take, they're all contributing to shaping the world of tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day,
Right.
but we need to lift our gaze to think long-term, to consider the kind of world we want to leave for future generations.
It's a lot of responsibility, but also a pretty incredible opportunity, right?
It is.
We're literally at the cusp of a new era.
Yeah.
And we have the chance to be architects of that era.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. We're not just passengers on this spaceship, Earth. We're co-pilots.
Right.
And it's time for us to step up and take the controls.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
The future of AGI isn't something that's being decided in some secret lab or boardroom.
No.
It's being shaped right now.
It is.
In our homes, in our communities, in our conversations.
Exactly.
In the choices we make every single day. What kind of future will you choose? What role will you play in this extraordinary story that's unfolding before our very eyes?
Those are questions worth pondering, aren't they? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, the future is ours to create.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll be back next week with a brand new topic and another thought-provoking conversation. Until then, keep diving deep.